Okay. So, first of all, we're gonna cover the paragraph that your sister wrote the other day. Of course, the purpose is to evaluate whether, this is a well-structured paragraph, and we're going to be looking at, whether the topic sentence has fulfilled its role, and the other sentences, help to like support the main idea. All right. And then we're going to go through a sample answer, and then we're going to move on to, one more type of task in writing task one. And then we have like a small revision in the last lesson. This is already the fifth lesson, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so the other day we were talking about this particular topic. Today, many people spend less and less time at home. What are the reasons for this, and what are the effects of this on individuals and on society? All right, now let's have a look at Hang's work here. You guys were asked to write a body paragraph for the second question, right? Now, so the second question is, what are the effects of this on individuals and society? Let's have a look. Nowadays, youths, this is usually not the good word here, people prefer going out instead of staying home, not staying at home, right? Staying home. This can bring both negative and positive impacts on individuals as well as society. Right. Well, this is a good introduction, but you know that this is a body paragraph, not exactly like, a separate paragraph. So you don't really need to write everything out. The context is already clear. So my suggestion is that perhaps the topic sentence can be as simple as this, right? The given trend or the trend, right, of spending less time at home, right, can have can exert can exert um uh, what kind of effects are we talking about here? Hold on individuals and on society, right? What I'm trying to illustrate here is that like you don't really need to like reintroduce the context. This is the body paragraph, right? But I understand that, this is the first sentence that you wrote. So perhaps you wanted to have a sense of context first. All right. Now, as for individuals, going out allow them to let their hair down, relax, and earn additional money. Well, let their hair down is a nice idiom, but let their hair down means to relax, right? So perhaps we can rephrase this as to relax and de-stress, right? Relax and de-stress. And like I don't think that you can do both of these two things at the same time. Like if you're relaxing and de-stressing, you shouldn't be earning additional money, or you shouldn't be working really hard to do so. So I think it's better to use or here, right? Can understand this part?
Yes.
Okay. So like there's a difference between and or when it comes to connecting phrases. If you write and, it means that both of these things can happen at the same time, whereas or implies that only one thing can happen at a time, right? In this case, I'm leaning towards the latter. We're using or. While many view working overtime as making workers feel haggard. Huh, I've never seen this word before. Let me check up the word. Hold on. Interesting. Hmm, nice. It means having dark areas. All right. Well, this is a nice phrase. Haggard.
Good.
Haggard,
Good.
not haggard. Haggard. All right. Nice. Looking ill or tired, often with dark skin under the eyes. Um, not feel, look, right? Haggard. I believe that working late permits white collar workers to earn more money. This is the same case. This is the same for, you don't use the same case. This also applies to for people doing additional part-time jobs, such as being like Grab drivers. Us, right? Us, the drivers, could relax by taking rides around the city. No, I don't think that Grab drivers actually relax by doing something like that. Like, what if they get caught in a traffic, right? What if they have to drive very obnoxious passengers who just can't seem to, just sit down and relax and just, be quiet, What if they cuss? What if these passengers just litter all over, the place? I mean, I don't think that saying that drivers could relax is a good thing. Anyway, so this is a weak argument, in my opinion, slightly weak argument. Okay. However, going out may make individuals targets for thieves and burglars, and don't write down the and burglars. So don't use so like when you're like writing like in a how should I say this? Like when you if my like from I'm having a hard time explaining this. Like from my experience, you don't usually use this type of syntax when you write an essay, right? You just use "and" at the last item of a list, right? So for thieves and burglars, at night there are usually more cases of kidnapping, stealing, and pickpocketing, right? And this is a costly effect for most people. I think
What
there's a
is
better word for it. Huh?
what is pickpocketing?
Is another word for stealing, but pickpocketing specifically targets the money in your pockets.
Pockets?
Yes, pockets like the ones that you have on your jeans, on your
Yeah, I know,
pants.
but like, okay.
Hmm. You can't imagine how it's done, right? And this is a negative effect for most people. As for the community, I believe that not staying home may strain family relationships. Many individuals go to parties or work until late at night, spend little to no time with their parents and right and siblings. However, if individuals do extra work, they could contribute to the economy of society. Well, I think that this is a fair answer, right? This is a fair answer. Um, like it's just that from my personal experience, mm, I wonder if this is like a legitimate approach. What are the effects of this on individuals and on society? So Hằng here is taking on quite, a large workload. Like she's saying that apparently this particular development can have both negative and positive impacts on both individuals and society. Um, okay, so exert both negative and positive impacts on individuals and on society. So her current flow is like this. Current structure would be about individuals, right? And then the positive and the negative. Ah, but for society, she goes with negative first and then positive. I think that this is acceptable. It's just that, from my personal experience, IELTS tends to like encourage you to pick a side, to pick a side. So instead of saying that, all right, I mean, there are like positive and negative effects on both individuals and society, it's it's better to folk to pick a side and say perhaps for individuals, it's more beneficial, you know. But for society, there are more drawbacks. Yeah, that's just my personal recommendation. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. But the suggested structure would be to pick an overall impact. For instance, now, if you were to consider the overall impact on individuals here, from here all the way to here, right? Would you say that the overall impact is negative or positive?
Um,
So you have both the pluses, right? The
both.
pluses,
Yeah, both, I
the
think.
positive and the negative. But overall, in your opinion, which one outweighs the other? Like, would the pluses outweigh the minuses or the other way around? What is your
I
opinion?
think positive.
Okay. Well, I also think so. And perhaps we can do something about, all of these crimes targeting, people who, get out and about at night. Perhaps we can just install more street lights to increase visibility. Um, perhaps there should be more, police patrols, right? During night time to make sure that nobody steps out of line. And if they do, they can be comprehended and taken to the police station. But okay, look, what I'm trying to say is that pl- instead of listing like both positive and negative, perhaps you can plan ahead and then decide which one would outweigh the other, you know? So for her here, I think that overall still more positive. Okay, that's all. All right, thank you, Han. And thank you, Hung, for your work. I would say that, of all the arguments here, like 80% of her paragraph is pretty strong. Like there's just this idea here of like um Grab drivers be able to relax. No, when I think about them, like they do have to work, right? That's work. They might enjoy the experience of working and interacting with like lots of people. As I've told you, there are some Grab di drivers who are really just like undercover agents or rich people trying to find an excuse to get out and about at night, right? So, they might hop on their motorbike and turn on the app and work as a Grab driver. But then, they have like diamond encrusted watches around their wrists. And like their motorbikes are super expensive. Like they can be like hundreds of millions of Vietnam dong in cost, right? And then they have all kinds of enhancements to their vehicles. So yeah, I don't think that this is a strong argument, right? But well, the other parts are fine in my opinion. It's just that my personal recommendation is that like you should plan ahead of time. You guys had already done that, but for some reason Hung decided to, mention both the positives and the negatives. Right, that was fine. I mean, she went off the beaten track, so this is a nice experience. Now let's have a look at the sample answer. Okay. Now, please, I would like you to read first, and we're going to consider whether the arguments are persuasive enough. Okay, read the introduction, please.
It is true that the amount of time spent at home has declined significantly in the general populace. This is due to the fact that they are busier with work or prefer spending time in other locations for leisure purposes. While individuals are likely to reap benefits from this tendency, the opposite is the case for society.
Okay, so the context is clear, I think. Is this the right context?
Yeah,
All right, spend less
maybe.
and less time at home. The amount of time spent at home has declined significantly. Accepted. What are the reasons for this? So the first answer is that this is due to, is this the correct phrase to talk about reasons?
Yeah, I, yeah,
Yeah, of course. But you can say the reasons here are, or the reasons for this are, but I think like there's so many other phrases to use. Like this is owing to, this is because, right? This is due to the fact, it's fine. That either busier with work or prefer spending time in other locations for leisure purposes. Would you agree with these two ideas? Like you don't really have to understand why immediately, but like at first
yeah,
glance, would you agree with them?
yeah.
Okay. So if your ideas have that sort of effect, making your reader agree with you, then these are strong ideas. Okay. While individuals are likely to reap benefits from from this tendency, the opposite is the case for society. Hmm. Would you consider this answer a direct response to the second question?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Good. So that's how examiners evaluate your responses. I mean, like, if you're already a really skilled writer, of course, your examiner would not have to examine like sentence by sentence. He's just gonna read your essay and then evaluate whether or not your response is persuasive and appropriately structured and things like that, right? But yeah, I mean, this is one way for you to evaluate whether your response is, it is good enough. All right. Now, the second paragraph, please, let's have a read.
There are two typical reasons for people to spend less time at home. The first concerns their hectic work schedules. As workloads in many companies increase and employees are required to work overtime to meet deadlines, while other working adults might also take on side hustles, doing part time jobs to increase income. Children and teenagers also have more classes to attend, especially in preparation for exams, and in many countries, they tend to come home late. In addition to these cases, many people would also seek to release stress by going to cafes, restaurants, and clubs. This not only caters their emotional needs, but also gives them a vibrant social life, which is more exciting than spending time at home.
Wow, you were really speeding through that paragraph, huh? Well then, okay, sure. There are two typical reasons for people to spend less time at home. This is already a good enough topic sentence. The function of a topic sentence is to just tell the reader what you're going to write about. You don't have to go in full details right in there. Okay. So this is a good topic sentence. Now, we have two reasons. The first concerns the hectic work schedules. Okay. This is a nice phrase. Hectic work schedules. And following this point, uh, there should be an explanation, right? This is like an overall comment. So So people are likely to ask, okay, hectic work schedules, what do you mean by that? Right? What do you mean by that? Oh, so as a writer, you're going to explain. So here's what I mean. Workloads in many companies increase and employees are required to work overtime to meet deadlines. Okay, does this sound like a hectic work schedule for you? Please.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so this is a good explanation. And then there's also another explanation. They're talking about adults, employees, right? While other working adults might also take on side hustles, doing part-time jobs to increase income. Hmm. Take on side hustles, essentially additional work opportunities. Would you consider that to be also an appropriate explanation for the word hectic work schedule here?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just highlight these explanations. So as you can see, like a good explanation of course have to sort of give more details to a more general point that has already been made, right? So think about your logic like that. So you have like a really general phrase, and then you give details to that phrase. Like if you say that, okay, my house is beautiful, then you had to like give details with regard to why it's so beautiful, right? Perhaps it's beautiful because it has like pictures of all family members everywhere, like on virtually every single wall. There are at least like three pictures of all family members, like when they are young and then old, right? And then it's beautiful because like it has like this very nice set of furniture in the middle of the living room, giving it a really nice urban vibe, you know? And perhaps it's beautiful because it has like just a tiny balcony, but that balcony is lined with multiple plant pots arranged in, multiple shelves, you know? So what I'm trying to say is that like when you're like describing something in a general way, you should try to explain it. Okay? That's all. Now, children and teenagers also have more classes to attend, especially in preparation for exams. And in many countries, they tend to come home late. Okay, does this help to explain why teenagers also spend less time at home? Please. More classes to
Yeah.
attend.
Yes.
Also a valid explanation, right? But then do you know why? Do you know why? This essay talks about two groups of people, adults who have like proper employment, and then not children, but children and teenagers, right? Children and teenagers who have not work responsibilities, but like educational commitments, classes, and things like that. Do you know why it has to mention like these two groups of people?
No.
Hmm. Now, as you can see, this question here is about people, right? So people is a very general term. Does that mean only adults?
No.
No. At the very least, there should be adults, of course. I think that adults are the easiest to write about, right? But then kids, students, college students, high school students, secondary school students, these are people too, right? So you should mention them simply because focusing on only adults would perhaps not be enough. It is insufficient. So you have to mention other groups of people too, especially children and teenagers. Okay. So yeah, the reason why this paragraph focuses on two groups of people is simply because people, see, it is a really big phrase, really big phrase. It's not a phrase, sorry. It's a very big term. It's a very large term. So you have to talk about, different groups of people just to make sure that you are not focusing on only one. Okay. Now, in addition to these cases, many people would also seek to release stress by going to cafes, restaurants, and clubs. This not only caters to their emotional needs, but also gives them a vibrant social life, which is more exciting than spending time at home. Hmm. Would you consider this to be a good argument to explain why many people don't spend a lot of time at home anymore? Ha.
Yes.
Okay, this is also a legitimate argument. Personally, personally, I would perhaps enhance this body paragraph just a little bit by giving more details here, right? Many people, including young and old individuals, many people from both young and older age groups, right? From both young and older age groups or demographics, right? Like what I'm trying to I should say this. What I'm trying to specify here is that like essentially this happens to different demographics, not just young people who have a lot of time on their hands. It happens to older people too. Okay, so this is a good paragraph, don't you think? We're going to move on to the second paragraph, which addresses the second question, the second body paragraph. My God. Now, have a read, please.
As for the impacts of the given tendency, I believe individuals and society would be affected in opposite ways. With regard to the former, doing extra work is a meaningful use of time for its financial rewards, allowing them to cover rising living expenses and prepare for long term investments. While going out for entertainment can be more satisfying than staying home, however, social impacts are likely to be negative. This is because family members might interact less, as seen in how busy parents tend to come home late and have little time for their offspring. Damaged family ties can then lead to cultural losses, as culture is first nurtured and cultivated in each household.
Hmm. Okay, so as for the impacts of the given tendency or development, like these two words are not interchangeable. And when you talk about people and what they normally do, you can use the word tendency and also development if you're talking about how they have changed their, behavior over time. But when you're talking about, let's say, what has happened to, let's say, the structure of a place or, um, how the government is spending money on different areas, I think it's better for us to stick with the word development. Okay. But anyway, this is already a good enough linking phrase because it shows us what we're talking about. The impacts, right? I believe individuals and society would be affected in opposite ways, right? So after this really intriguing phrase, the reader is bound to ask, okay, well then, what do you mean by opposite ways? What is the effect on individuals and what is the effect on society, right? Now let's have a look. With regard to the former, this is a very nice phrase for linking with one of the two ideas. So in the previous sentence, we have individuals and society. When I say with regard to the former, does that mean individuals or society? Please.
Uh,
Former. That should be the first one. And that should be individuals. Okay. So this is a really like I'm not sure if it's like advanced linking device, but like when you have like two ideas or two things that you have already mentioned, and you only want to talk about the first one, right? You can use this phrase with regard to the former. Doing extra work is a meaningful use of time for its financial rewards, allowing them to cover, allowing who, right? Allowing people meaningful of use of time due to it's better due to its by financial rewards, allowing people to cover rising living expenses and prepare for long-term investments, while going out for entertainment can be more satisfying than staying at home. Okay, is that fine?
Yes.
Hmm. But then there's something missing from this argument here. Do you know what is still missing from it?
Missing?
Yes, there's still something missing from this argument. Let's have a look. Um, in the first body paragraph, there are arguments regarding working adults, right? So this argument clearly, the first part here, clearly applies to working adults, right? And then there's this argument about going out for entertainment being more satisfying than staying at home. So this clearly covers the second idea, right? But then what is still missing from the equation? Let me just highlight it for you. Maybe if I change the color of this, you will see. So what is missing from the effects? We have talked about workloads and the benefits of working overtime. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Mm. We've also talked about the benefits of getting out and about, having fun, knocking yourself out with social interactions. Well, then this is that part. Well, then what is still missing? The benefits
The benefits
for children and teenagers, right? I mean, children and teenagers certainly don't really earn money, right? They don't earn money. So what's the point of mentioning um sorry, so there's no argument covering this particular group. Okay? So a way to upgrade this paragraph is to mention to mention the benefits for teenagers and children as well, right? Perhaps the benefit here is that they can focus on their education and spend less time on their devices at home, right? That's one way to do it. But what I'm trying to say is that like since the body paragraph has covered a very wide range of people, the second body paragraph has to measure up as well, right? It also has to cover, at the very least, all of these types of people as well. Now, the second part here, however, social impacts are likely to be negative. Okay, interesting. This is because family members might interact less, as seen in how busy parents tend to come home late and have little time for their offspring, right? For their offspring. Damaged family ties can then lead to cultural losses. Mm. Would you consider this to be a good argument? Do you agree that, yeah, damaged family ties can then perhaps lead to cultural losses?
yeah, I
Okay.
think
And then
it's a
there's
good.
even if you're in doubt, if you don't really, even if you don't really have and any like connection between like these two concepts, then there's this explanation here, right? Why would damaged family ties lead to cultural losses? These are two different concepts. So there's an explanation here. Culture is first nurtured and cultivated in each household. Would you agree with this assertion?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, I think this is also a really nice paragraph, although it does miss the mark just a little bit because it failed to mention like the effects this development might have on teenagers and children, right? Would you consider this to be a negative or positive thing? Like teenagers and children have more classes to attend, and they tend to come home late because of that.
I think it's a kind of a negative thing.
Hmm. Why?
Well, because it makes them a bit stressed,
Hmm.
and coming home late isn't that good.
Okay. That's also a valid argument, right? So essentially, like it depends on the perspective. I mean, what I'm for this particular paragraph, right? Since the overall tone is already that it's already like this is a positive development for individuals. So if you're writing about teenagers and children, it's better for you to just stick with the positive side. So you have to look at the bright side of this development. And for a lot of parents, they might not be so keen on like their children coming home late. Like 11, not yeah, 11 is a bit too late. 10 is also very late. 9, yeah, still acceptable. But well, they certainly like the idea that their kids are not just doing nothing, right? They have something to do and someone professional, right, to look after them. So, but attending classes can have that sort of benefit. But I agree, like even as a teacher, I think that the fact that some teenagers only come home at like 11 in the evening is not exactly a good thing. But then again, like it's not I can't say that it's like a totally negative thing. Okay? So just pick a side, that's all. Ha, got it. I think that your assessment is also valid.
Okay.
It looks pretty stressful. Are you ready for that stress? You're
No,
moving you're moving to secondary school, and that school of yours is renowned for
what is
having
reading
it's famous for. It's
for?
famous for really heavy workloads. Or that's the stereotype that is perpetuated regarding your school.
The
Are you ready
school
for that?
time is the school time is 7:15 to 8. No, is 7:15 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, but have you accounted for extra classes?
Yes.
Oh,
No,
oh.
no.
Well, then that's something to think about, right? You're about to be a secondary school student. Yes, girl. So, yeah, think about that. Anyway, we're going to have a short break, and when we return, we're going to move on to this. Yes, we're going to talk about pictures. All right, 10 minutes. I'll see you at 10:50. Yeah, 10:55. No, not 10, 9:55 or 10. 10, 10, 10. Okay. I'm gonna pause. Okay. So, a few weeks ago, we've already covered one type of task one questions, which dealt with numbers and trends and comparisons and things like that. Now we're gonna work with something more visual, right? They're essentially pictures. And today's lesson is about maps and processes. But first of all, let's have a look at these two pictures, right? clearly these are the pictures of a city, but I think that the first one is an actual picture. The the second one is an actual picture, but the first one is more like a hand drawn picture, right? And it's I guess it's because at the time there was no camera. But okay, two pictures of a city. Now, in your opinion, how has it changed over time, and how can you tell?
It has changed over time. Now it's becoming a more modern city. It's no longer like old and old-fashioned anymore. I
Mm,
can tell because it has it looked way cleaner now,
mm.
and it is really it's pretty.
One suggestion. Okay, so you know that I think that it's true that this city is a lot more modern. It's certainly undergone a really um how should I say this? It has certainly undergone a significant transformation, you might say, right? And it's not just modernization, it's urbanization as well, right? Um, you can see that there are a lot more buildings, and not just buildings, but as you can see in the past, a building would look like this. But now you have what?
There's
There are a lot more high-rise buildings, right? A lot more high-rise buildings. In the past, most of the buildings were only like 1 to 2 story tall, right? See that? Hello, can you see that?
yes, yes.
Okay. And then, as you can see, the development mostly concerns the area near the surrounding rivers, because as you can see here, like most of the like big buildings have the view of like the river, right? Whereas the area further inside tends to have fewer high-rise buildings. You see that? Like the areas inside?
Yes.
Okay. But then again, there's still something that hasn't changed that much. Can you find out what that element is? It's
Like
very close to home.
something that hasn't changed.
Not not hasn't changed, but more like it hasn't changed that much. It's
There's still
very
homes.
it's very close to you. I'm not quite sure how else I can say it, because if I say anything else, it's gotta, like spill the secret. Here, see this part, right? So the green area close to the river or this body of water in general has not changed that much. There has certainly been a change in a way, but not to the point of like complete removal. You see that? Huh, can you see it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, right. So as you can see, um, like when you look at like two different, in this case, two different pictures that show a city in or an area in two different periods of time, you can instantly connect the dots and decipher what sort of change has happened. All right. So here you can have like an overall impression. This is clearly an urban development, right? Or urbanization, right? Or modernization, right? And then you can find evidence for this sort of development. As you can see, there are a lot more high-rise buildings, right? Which tend to be located near the river. The inside area also has more housing, but buildings there are not as tall, right? So some of the changes, and then there's also certain features that have not changed that drastically, right? The green area near the river, near the river, has not been reduced significantly. It has only changed marginally. Changed marginally. All right. Got it.
Yes.
Okay. So this is what we're going to do when we analyze maps or, pictures or diagrams that compare a place in different periods of time. We want to find out what sort of development has happened or is planned to take place, and we want to find evidence for that sort of development, right? Sometimes it means describing the place before and then after, but sometimes it means you have to classify the information in a different way, right? Instead of saying, okay, in 1873, the area looks like this and this and this and this and this and this. By the time you finish describing the first picture, people have already forgotten all the information. So when you move to the second picture, there's no comparison to be made because like your reader cannot like memorize so many details, right? So what you need to do is that you need to focus on the different types of changes as I'm doing right now, right? A lot more high-rise buildings which tend to be located near the river, right? The inside area also has more housing, but the buildings there are not as tall, right? So this is a way to classify the changes and help your reader to sort of like wrap their head around what has changed. Okay, good. Well then, how long have you been living in your apartment?
A year about
Oh,
that.
a year. Well then, would you say that a lot has changed in that area?
I won't exactly say it has changed a lot, except the fact that my building has X's and O's on it, and the other buildings don't.
Oh, okay, fine. Let's continue. Down here. Now, just read the question first. The maps below show a,
It shows a park.
just read the question. Read it.
The map below show a science park in 2008 and the same park today.
Summarize information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, I'd like you to just have a look at this graph and I guess spot the differences. What would be, the change that has taken place here? Pay attention to the key. Hmm. Please. What is your assertion?
My what?
What's your assessment, your evaluation of the change that has taken place here? This is a park, right? Do you know where to look at?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
I
tell me.
think.
Then what has transpired between 2008 and the current park?
The grasslands has kind of disappeared,
Mm,
and in that place there's research and development,
mm,
and in the other place next to the car park there's the cybersecurity, no longer any more grasslands. There's there's no more reception,
mm.
and the it center is the innovation center. Plus
IT,
there's a station.
IT. It's the
Plus
subway.
there's a station.
Mm, okay. Anything else?
No.
Mm,
Oh, there's the track over here. There's this thing. Wait, there's this thing.
mm. That part, and then this part too, and then this too, and then this too. So what exactly are these things? Look at the key. These are
Cycle path.
psychopaths. Good. So what would you describe as the overall change to the place? You managed to spot a lot of differences. Great. Right. Of course, there are certain areas that have not changed. For instance, here, the the trees, right? The trees in the science park are largely kept the same, right? Largely kept the same. The business units is the same. The offices are the same, right? The car park has been reduced in size, but it's in the same location. It's just smaller. The cybersecurity has been developed. The main path, right? The main road remains the same, but the main road now has additional cycle paths or lanes for cyclists, right? And then we also have other changes here, right? Can you see that we actually have a different road network, different paths here? See that? We have a lot more paths.
Yeah.
Mm, right? So what would you consider to be the change in this place?
The change,
Yes. I know that it's
like
an abstract question, but yeah, I mean, like with all of these differences listed out, what would you consider to be like the overall change to the place?
there is more transportation
Mm,
and less grasslands
good. But the grassland is sacrificed for something. What is that something?
for technology.
Maybe not technology, but buildings, right? Buildings. So that is the overall impression, right? Overall impression. Um, you have additional transport options, okay? And grassland has been cleared to make way for buildings, okay? Got it?
Yeah.
Would you consider this to be a significant development?
I would say yeah, but I don't know if it's like a really big one
I would say
because
that, yeah. For me, I think that,
it's just a small space and
like,
technically
well, I would say that this is a rather radical transformation. It's a transformation in a way, right? Because well, these two pictures are, mm, in my opinion, no longer the same, right? So it's a transformation, all right? Significant changes, or you can say that it's a transformation, all right? Okay, that should be it for now. And I have one more question for you. Would you, hold on, how would you describe these two, how can you describe the changes that have taken place to this park? Would you describe the park in 2008 first and then move to the new science park? Or how would you classify the information? Remember, the goal is to make sure that your reader understand what you're saying. How can you do that?
Maybe I can like I can
You can choose. Let's consider the first option. If we describe if we describe like the first park, do you like how would you describe it? You would describe it from where to where to where?
I would describe it from the from above to bottom.
Okay, so you start from the north and then you move further south, right? But then
Yes.
I have a question. You see, you definitely have to cover information like, okay, so in this the northern part, there are the offices and reception next to two trees, right? And then an area of grassland. And then you have the business units in the northwest corner, right? The business units. And then there's a path dividing this area from the area further south. Well, then if you go through all these details, do you think that your reader will remember them so that when you move to the second paragraph, you can make comparisons? Will your reader remember all these details?
I don't think so.
Right? I think that oftentimes, like 3 to 4 details would already be enough, right? But here, if you move further south, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Look, you have even more details than in the north, right? So instead of describing like the science park in 2008 and today separately, it's better for you to make comparisons as you go, right? Now, if we make comparisons as we go, how can we do that?
Oh, well, we were talking about when we get to the part that has changed, then I guess we can start talking about the comparison.
Sure. But if we start from the north, this is okay, I think. Oftentimes you have to pick a starting point, right? In this case, there is no starting point, so you can just start with the north. So instead of going all the way from the north to the south, perhaps we can describe the north first like this, right? And then we compare it right away, right? So you write something about the north of the science park in 2008. See that? And then compare it with the science park today. That should be easier for people to assimilate. Okay.
I guess so.
Mm. And then you move to the south. See that? And then you
Yeah.
talk about the south
The,
now.
the
Okay.
and the South Bend.
Sure. But then there's one more detail that we need to mention.
What is it?
That would be the psychopaths. The psychopaths. See that? They don't just belong to the south or the north. These psychopaths appear everywhere. In fact, we have all kinds of new new paths everywhere. You see that? All the new paths, all the new paths, right? So that would be the third group of information that we have to cover. All right. So imagine yourself as a tour guide. How would you describe changes to this place to the visitors nowadays?
I would describe it uh, as from the north and describe the differences on the way, and then describe the uh, after that describe
The
the
south.
yeah and the differences thing.
Okay, and then we describe the transport network.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that like you have to put yourself in your reader's shoe. I wonder if it makes sense. Like you just need to write for your readers. Understand? It's not just about describing, it's about making things make sense. Okay. So that's a very nice strategy. We don't have a lot of time, so just have a look at the overview and the introduction. I'd like you to give me the correct form of these words. Read, please.
Uh,
Illustrate.
the map the maps illustrate modify
What is the noun for it?
the modification
Good. The
that the
modification.
science park has undergone between 2008 and the present.
Continue.
Overall, it is clear that this area has ren, a
Undergone.
variety undergone a variety of renovations, which include the replacement of grasslands by buildings and the installations of new paths. However, the size of the park has remained unchanged.
Okay, good. So the modification is a very nice word for a change, right? But then I feel like you only use the word modification when you're talking about an area with a limited size, like a building or maybe a park, a garden, but not like a neighborhood, right? For a neighborhood, you just use the word change or transformation. Um, okay, so then you in the overview, you just make a general assessment. So the general assessment here is that okay, the area has undergone a variety of renovations, right? Has undergone a variety of renovations, which include the replacement of grassland by buildings, right? So this is an over a general assessment. And down here we have specific details or evidence, right? So this is a really nice logic to apply in your task one reports. It's not just about saying, okay, this is different, this is different, that is different, that is different. It's more about, okay, this is how I see things. This area has changed a lot. And that is evidenced by what and what and what and what. And then when we move to this area, it hasn't changed that much. The features there have remained almost the same. Okay, got it?
Got it.
Okay. So we have two major changes. Would you agree?
Yes.
And I think that you need to pay attention to this, the first detail here, the replacement of grassland by buildings, right? So there's a purpose. There's a purpose. It's not just about removing the grassland, it's about making way for the construction of new buildings or the development of infrastructure, right? This is making way for infrastructural development, right? Okay, let's continue. We can skip this. Essentially, this is how the examiner is gonna evaluate your responses. Essentially, you just need to know that, like, for band six, you have like from one to nine, right? For band six, it's more about the range. You use lots of words, but the accuracy is pretty low. Accuracy is pretty low. I was saying, like, you tend to like misspell or use words that don't have like the best meaning, right? For instance, like if you're describing something that's supposed to increase in size and you use the word reduce, it means that you're using the wrong word, right? But you have a very nice range and the meaning is clear for the most part, for most of your answer. Now, for seven, it's about range and a reasonably high level of accuracy. Let's say 80%, right? 80%. The thing is that there's still, even for band seven, there's still a few errors in spelling and word formation, but the meaning is still clear, right? The clarity is still there. That's all. Now, let's have a look and we'll do the same thing. Read, please.
Looking first at the north of the map, the former grassland in the northwest corner has been replaced by a new building for research and development, while the reception opposite has been converted into a university hub. However, the offices and businesses units have remained the same.
Good.
Further development could also be found in the south, where the cybersecurity building has been extended northward.
How can you say that? Has been extended northward. This is do you know the adverb of northward? Northward is clearly an adjective, but what is the spelling for its adverb form? It should be an S, northwards, right? So to move up, right? Continue.
Finally, there are
Hold
also
on. Here.
actually no. What does that word mean?
To eat away something or to take over the area formerly used for something else. Subsuming, right? Subsuming, which has been, sorry, the former grassland near the central car park, which has been which has been
Which has been also been made smaller.
hmm,
The previous IT center in the western corner has been changed into an innovation one, whereas the trees in this area are kept intact. Finally, there are also new developments for transportation as new cycle paths have been added next to the roads, a bus stop installed to the east of the park, and new paths linked to the new
a,
array.
new, a newly erected, right?
Okay.
Newly erected train station. So, does this description follow exactly what we had already planned? Uh,
Yeah, yes, I
right?
think yes.
So you need like connective words that help to point the way for the reader, right? All right, gentlemen, looking first at the north of the map. Just look at the north of the map. We have something for you, right? So this is a very nice word to direct your reader's attention. The former grassland in the northwest corner has been replaced by a new building for research and development. Done. While the reception opposite has been converted into a university hub. So we have two sentences, not two sentences, but one sentence with two clauses to describe the things that have changed. And then all of the features that remain the same are put in the same sentence, right? So that's the kind of, information classification that you need to demonstrate as you write, because it helps the reader to understand, that these two maps a lot more effectively. Okay. You tell them where to look, you tell them what has changed and what has not. Okay. Down here, we have a phrase, further development could also be found. It's maybe a structure. I'm not quite sure what to use here. But anyway, further developments could also be found, not found, in the south, right? So that means that we are moving to the
Moving to the south.
good, where you have more changes, right? The cybersecurity has been extended northwards. Essentially, you have that additional part, but it's closer to the north. So you say extended northwards. And that area replaced the former grassland near the central car park. So you use the word subsume, right? But the car park itself has also been made smaller. And the previous IT center has been changed into an innovation one. And then the trees are kept the same, right? So we also describe the changes first, and then we have something that has not changed. And finally, we move our attention to the aspect of transportation, right? So you can say that the most obvious difference here would be the addition of new cycle paths or lanes for cyclists, right? And then we have a bus stop and new paths. Understand? So this body paragraph has fulfilled its role. It tells you exactly where to look, right? And then it cuts the information into just bits of data that you can process instead of overwhelming your senses with, all right, so this is the north, this is the south. In the north we have this and this and this, and in the south we have all of these things, right? And then look at the map now. Look at the park now. There have been so many changes, but then as your reader, as a reader and as a listener, like it's hard for you to keep track of all these details, right? So this map has this body paragraph, these body paragraphs has certainly done a good job in terms of like cutting the information into pieces so that you as a reader can understand. Okay, got it?
Got it.
Okay. Now, when you describe maps here, of course, you have to use words related to location, like north, south. It helps to orient your reader. And then you use words related to changes, like replaced, converted, remain the same. All right. So these are the two types of languages that you need to know. I think you already have like lots of them already. You just need to be aware of the fact that when you're describing pictures, diagrams, you have to talk about positions, okay, locations as well, location related vocabulary and change related vocabulary. I trust that you can do these words, all these tasks at home. So this will be your homework here. It's a very different thing, but still a visual
Okay.
based task. I would like you to write a report to explain, based on this diagram, how electricity is produced. Okay.
Okay.
All right. That should be for today then.
Mình viết lên cho chị.
And I'm gonna send.
Teacher,
Yes.
teacher. I just got back from the hospital. Can you send the recording of the today lesson to my mom?
Yes.
Please.
Yes. Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.